The sun is shining on the righteous here at Oschersleben in Germany, and by that I mean Graham and myself in the commentary box. The Corvette pace car is leading the field around. They are in single file and in tyre warming mode, ready for the start of this race, but they will close up and resume their grid positions as they get near the end of this rolling lap. This is the view through the windscreen of the number 6 Corvette. This is the view through the windscreen of the number 1 Maserati, being started by team leader, Team Oda, and the man who wants to win this race so badly, Michael Bartels. We'll find out if his hopes and dreams will be realised 2 hours from now. We have 26 cars on the grid. We've got £20 million worth of hardware. We've got 15,000 odd horsepower out there, and we are ready for the 4th round of the FIA GT Championship. And although we've got that Aston Martin in pole, and although they have looked very strong throughout this weekend, I don't think that we can call it from here, can we?
Absolutely not, Richard. It's such a tight circuit. It really does suit the power cars, although we've seen Aston Martin heading the timesheets pretty much throughout the weekend. Christophe Bouchou definitely feels he was wronged during qualifying and should be on the front row himself. It remains to be seen if everybody gets through turn 1. That's the first challenge.
Well, and unpredictable. Who would have said 4th place on this grid at this circuit? The Ferrari of Jose Maria Lopez, who will start the car in this race. There it is, the red car. How old is that?
Oh, at least 5 years, isn't it? And entered by ACA Argentina, looked after by Jacques Leconte Competition car, and crewed by 2 Argentinian young hot shoes, shall we call them, both touring car experts really, but Jose Maria Lopez joined this weekend by Martin Basso, both out of the Argentinian Touring Car Championship, where they both run in factory programs. The board there showing the drivers that, just reminding them they need to line up in side-by-side grid order while the Corvette pace car prepares to pull off into what is a very long pit lane entry, at which point control of the race will go to the pole position driver, Carl Wendlinger.
Pit lane entrance on your right. Watch the Corvette now. It will dive to the right if everybody is satisfied that we are ready for a go. There it is. So Carl Wendlinger is in charge of this. We're on board in the Maserati behind that Ferrari. Who would have expected that here? Christophe Bouchou is the car immediately in front of us, and ahead of that it is that front row lockout from Jet Alliance. We've got a green light. We are going racing in Oschersleben, and the 2 Jet Alliance cars side by side. Bouchou looking for an opportunity to make his move. Bartel's getting anxious. He's looking for an opportunity to get through as well. Into turn 1, everybody looks very well behaved. The Ferrari locks up the brakes. There's a lot of smoke at the back, but I think most people have just shuffled their way through there. And Bouchou up on the inside is making his move. He's gained a place already.
People jumping over the curbs and everybody managing to keep 4 wheels in a straight line and get round the first corner. No carnage in the GT1 and 2 classes, thankfully. We've seen a lot of problems in earlier racing this weekend, but it's now still Michael Bartels trying to find his way past. Bouchou's got up into 2nd, as you said, Richard. Carl Wendlinger, it is, though, who's been shuffled down to 3rd. So it's Alex Muller who actually leads the race into 36, supposedly 2nd string car in the Jet Alliance team.
Hasn't Alex Muller been driving very well just lately, though? And now they've got 3 young drivers in that team who really are capable of doing great things. Bouchou, as we said, really has got it across him. He's very annoyed about what happened during qualifying, and he thinks that he was dissed by the organisation and then by some of the other drivers on the circuit. We'll say no more about that, but there's a man there with a point to prove, and he is Christophe Bouchou. No compromise.
And looking into the Jet Alliance garage, happy faces so far as they lead the race, but 3rd position wasn't where Carl Wendlinger expected to be. He wanted to be ahead of Alex Muller, not behind him, least of all behind Christophe Bouchou, who has split the Astons.
Michael Bartels here has got in front of Jose Maria Lopez. We saw the Ferrari having a brake lock-up moment into turn 1, and Michael Bartels has made his way past, and you can see the red Ferrari there's got rear view mirrors full of GMAC Corvettes.
It's 2x2 behind, Richard, because it's, as you say, it's the pair of GMAC Phoenix Racing Corvettes followed by the pair of the Celines, the 7 car for Greg Franchi, run by La Competition. An early stop for a driver change from, well, all right, start this one if you like. We've got the number 2 car already in the pit lane. Miguel Ramos out, and putting into that then Christian Zandy Negrão.
A year-long flashback there.
Yeah.
It's not unusual for us. That's an interest. We said watch them play their strategy card, and that is their strategy card at work. They have to make 2 pit stops. They have to make 2 driver changes. The both drivers must spend at least 35 minutes continuously in the seat. So Miguel Ramos will have to finish that car for the last 35 minutes, but they have made one of their pit stops already.
And it's dropped them right to the rear of the field, behind only only of one car, which was the second of the Moslers running in G2. We were wondering whether that car would start or not. It has done.
Remember, though, that the number 2 Maserati had that 5-place penalty imposed for bumping into other cars and causing avoidable accidents. So that's the strategy card they've played to get themselves out of what they think is an unfavourable grid position. And we'll see how that pans out in the race, just because Andy Negrão is at the moment shown as 25th out of 26, and number 26 I think is in the pit lane still, or just come out of it. Just because he's down there, you can't write him off.
None of the gaps between first and fourth places amount to anything more than 3/4 of a second, and you can see them all in the one view out of Michael Bartel's windscreen. In the Vitaphone pits, the men in the red and yellow do the refuelling. It distinguishes them in the pit lane and helps the officials make sure that all the rules about who touches the car when are being observed. No change up front, as you can see. Carl Wendlinger actually going backwards, and here's the number 77 Ferrari in and doing the same thing. Yes, also playing that card, Paolo Roberti handing over to Matteo Malicelli. They again didn't have the most favourable of starts, although they were only about 5th in class, and alongside Richard Westbrook's Porsche on the grid. So we've already got a couple of interesting strategies going on. Cars we need to watch out for during the course of this race will be 2 and 77, and we'll see how this race pans out, because they've stopped, but everybody else has got to stop as well an equal number of times. Muller leads it after 2 laps. He is 0.7 of a second ahead of the very fired up Christophe Bouchou you see there in the number 3 black and white SRT Corvette. Behind a low-key Carl Wendlinger, not quite sure why he got shuffled back at the start, but he certainly did. And behind him, Michael Bartels, the man who wants to win this race, I think, more badly than anyone else at Oschersleben this weekend. Oh, you can bet your life on that. Carl Wendlinger, I suspect, was just taking the view that it's discretion being the better part of valour, on the basis that you can't win the race in the first corner, but you can certainly lose it, and to be third and running is better than to be first and punted off. So maybe that explains it, but Bouchou just sets the fastest race lap, 1/1000th of a second quicker than Alex Muller last time round the back. Carl Wendlinger, of course, will have watched the GT3 races, which we've just enjoyed here, and that turn 1 was a critical part in the outcome of both of those. And as the pole man in the first race said, he went into turn 1, braked in the normal place, and then everybody else hit him. And I'm sure that Carl Wendlinger will have thought, I don't want any of that to happen to me. Bouchou sharing with the young Dutch driver Xavier Marson, and it's a good strong pairing. Celestar Racing coming into this series for a full season for the first time this year, and really hitting the ground running. This is the ACA Argentina car. We little thought at the beginning of the season, Richard, that we'd see a 550 Maranello back in. And look at it, right up the front of the field. It's qualified well. It dropped 1 place on the start, but it's still there, looking more or less on the pace. It's hard to avoid the suspicion that it's holding up Corvettes at the moment, but Fassler and Golin would like to get past, but aren't quite quick enough at the moment. Fabrizio Golin dropping back, but of course these two, first and third last time out, they're heavy. Yes, they are. They've both got success ballast on board. It's the nature of this circuit that it's hard to pass at the best of times, and if you're racing for position, you're not going to get any help from the guy in front, who, as long as he doesn't physically block you by weaving from side to side, is perfectly entitled to take the one good racing line. You've got to make your own arrangements to try and find a way past. Concentrate back on the leader, Alex Muller, setting another fastest race lap of 1:25.75 this time. And looking into the Jet Alliance cars there, and I presume that was Ryan Sharp, because that was a man without glasses in that crash. We didn't recognise the helmet, but I presume it was Ryan Sharp. And I wonder if that means that Jet Alliance have got a plan as well. You can bet they've all got a plan, and you can easily bet they won't share it with us before the race is a little bit on. But speaking of plan, we should point out that we've got missing. Michael Bartel's getting very racy indeed. Out of shape there, yeah. Missing from this lineup, disappointingly for us, is the number 10 Gigawave car, the Aston Martin, which so enlivened the opening rounds of this series by being a surprise on the pace car.
and is now sat in its pit box with a cracked engine mounting.
Yes, very sad. It's just a life part which has unfortunately run out of life at just the wrong time. They discovered the problem during warm-up this morning, didn't have a spare with them, and even if they had, wouldn't have had time to fix it in time for the race. So sadly a non-start for Gigawave, who's sown very strongly at the start of the season.
Couldn't work out why the car was a second or so off the pace of the Jet Alliance Aston Martin. Philip Peter and Alan Simonson couldn't explain the loss of pace. They weren't getting the turn in, the tyres weren't doing their stuff. They checked the car over very thoroughly and found the reason, and sadly it was terminal.
A slower lap last time round from Bouchou gives Alex Muller a second and a half's breathing space between himself and the pursuing Corvette. Carl Wendlinger holds third. Michael Bartels, we saw getting very racy there, but not able to make up any time on the Carl Wendlinger.
Alex Muller there is your race leader, and he set the fastest lap with 1:25s, but qualifying was a little bit faster than that by a couple of seconds, but they'll have been lighter in qualifying, and it was cooler. It was 5 o'clock in the evening before we even thought about qualifying, so the track much hotter this afternoon, so they will be slower.
We talked about GT2 cars running almost as quickly as GT1s here. Jimmy Bruni in the leading AF Corsa car number 50 in GT2, already up into 9th place overall.
His fastest lap though is a 1:29, so they're 4 seconds off the pace of the GT1s around here. That is quite a lot, isn't it?
It is in the drive. We were looking at a wet race, it would be a different story all over again. But now here is Wendlinger having a look at the back of Bouchou. The gap is down to just 0.6 of a second at the end of the previous lap.
Back with Michael Bartels, and you can see for yourself that he's a long way off the rear end of Carl Wendlinger's Aston Martin. The onboard camera lens makes it seem as if he's further away. It makes it look a lot more distant than it really is. You see from trackside camera, he is closer than it appears as we look out of the cockpit window. So he will certainly be able to scent his victim from where he is. And I think Christophe Bouchou is also scenting a victim at the moment. 1.8 seconds behind race leader Alex Muller, and starting to close up. And this closing up as well here.
Yes, a good battle going on, inter-Nissan battle between the two teammates. Marcel Fessler staying ahead of Fabricio Collin, winner at Adria with Mike Hazelmans, but at the moment neither of them able to make any sense of a pass on the Jose Maria Lopez in the aging ACA Argentina Ferrari 550 Maranello.
But the number 5 car in front of us has got 20 kilos of ballast for finishing third last time out in Adria. This car we're riding with now, 40 kilos, the penalty for winning there, and that's part of their problem. They can't accelerate so quickly, they can't brake so quickly, and the car isn't quite as agile on the turn-ins. So they've got a bit more to do to stay on the pace, and that's why they're struggling to get past the Ferrari. Watch now though as we come up to the Shell S's at the end of this, the second, really the only other straight on the circuit apart from the start finish. Is he close enough? I don't think so.
No, not this time round, but certainly closer than he's been at any stage so far. So Fessler doing his level best to get on terms with Lopez, setting his car's fastest lap last time round and quicker than the Ferrari ahead of him, but not yet quick enough to make that all-important jump to get round. There are very few natural overtaking places here at Oschersleben. One of them is down into turn 1. They approach that on the end of the longest straight, which is where they are now. Let's watch the view from Fabricio Collin, see if Fessler can get the job done this time.
Not close enough.
No, looks to be no. The Ferrari still has good straight line speed. Closing up again under cornering.
Well, they have really come on strong. Remember, this is only round 4, so it's their 4th outing in this series, and that Ferrari has come alive this weekend, hasn't it? We got glimpses of brilliance from it last time out in Italy, but this weekend really has marked its maturity again.
Yes, I think it's partly more knowledge of the car from the team, and also bringing in Martin Basso as the second driver, another young, quick Argentinian. We've seen a couple of former F1 drivers from Argentina racing the car in the early rounds. Good to have the names on board, but they weren't actually quite as quick as the young lads they've got in on board now, and that's what's making the difference, I think, this weekend, Richard.
Yes, indeed, and we've got a young Argentinian doing quite well in GT2 as well. Matthias Russo is currently about 5th or 6th in GT2. Jimmy Bruni continues to lead it from his teammate Christian Montanari. Tim Mullins 3rd, so that's grid order more or less for them, and then Richard Westbrook in the Porsche is 4th, and that's not really Porsche's. Oh dear, that is a problem for Wolfgang Kaufmann, who started the number 12 and I can't see what's wrong. Oh, it's crabbing badly, isn't it?
Yes, there's something seriously wrong with the direction of that car's travel. Should not be going there. They may be having a job to get that one back to the pits at all. There is one of the motors we just saw in shot as we're starting already to get into lappery as the quick cars come up against the slower GT2s. This is the back of one of the BMS Scuderia Italia Ferraris we're looking at, and it's Michael Bartels who has a job of finding a way past.
A lot of work at the steering wheel there for Michael Bartels. Look, flashing his lights, I want through. He's saying, I want past, get out of my way. There will be blue flags, but of course the GT2 cars are entitled to race their race. 77 you're looking at, it's not really in the thick of things though, having made that early stop.
And it hasn't really paid off because they are plumb last. Nor, can I say, has it paid off yet for Sandy McGraw, who remains mired down in 24th place between the two Mosleys.
Well, if they were hoping to put it in a bit of clear air and leapfrog positions, then it wasn't going to happen. We've got Muller leading Bouchou and Wendlinger getting ready to take the pass. So Muller, Bouchou, Wendlinger, Bartels, Lopez, Fassler first to sixth.
Bouchou just unsettling the view given to him by Carl Wendlinger behind. Just a little bit of weaving going on down into turn one there, not giving Wendlinger a chance to sort out a line that he could attack on. I'm not sure he was close enough to do so anyway, but Bouchou just making sure there was no way by. That's the gap between the two. It's not been much different from start to finish. It's down to less than half a second across the line last time through, but Alex Muller is making good his escape, and as they start to encounter more back marker traffic, he may well as a single car be able to get through better than these two battling each other behind.
Even gaps now, it's all a couple of seconds here and a couple of seconds there. This one's very tight. Wendlinger going right off onto the dust. We've seen a lot of that here this weekend. He is doing his best to bring that Aston Martin up to Christophe Bouchou, but when Bouchou is determined, he is determined, isn't he?
Absolutely. The slow-moving car of Wolfgang Kaufmann has made it that far around the track. The white flags you can see on the side of the circuit denoting the problem of a slow car on the track.
In the pit lane is the other driver, as you say, Martin Basso, who's due to take this car over at the first pit stop, and he's with Haley now.
Martin, it's your first GT1 race. Jose seems to have gotten off to a good start.
He looks a little nervous, but we think we can improve a little bit. We work on the thing of the last race in Adria. We're going to keep working because the car is right now so good. We are in 5th position. We need to fight until the end.
Great. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much.
Well, he's right. They are in a good position. We would not have put money on this. He's 5th at the moment. He's 9 seconds behind P1, and he is just 1.7 seconds behind the man in front of him, and that is Michael Bartels. Who would have thought that?
No, that's not really what was in the running order as we looked at it, was it? But that's what we're seeing on screen, and Michael Bartels it is looking out through the front of the Maserati there, trying to pick his way around this tight, twisty and very technical circuit.
33, Carl Wendlinger. His target is Christophe Bouchou. There he is. That's the back end of the SRT Corvette. And the gap now, 0.8 of a second, hasn't really changed for the past few laps. This race is only 10 laps old. There's been a lot going on, especially in the early couple of laps. Bouchou is the man who made most of the excitement, pretty much as we expected. And I still can't see what's wrong with this car, but something must be. And it looks to have 4 wheels and they're all round.
Looking at GT2, these are our leaders in the second place there, Christian Montanari. The car just going out of shot. In the background was the Corsa in the lead. So this now is Tim Mullen having a go at the back of Christian Montanari. It's a half a second or so the deficit between the two. Tim Mullen for CR Scuderia having a good outing, qualifying third, still sitting in third place, but looking very keen to get past Christian Montanari and up into second.
Yes, the CR Scuderia had mixed luck in qualifying. Good third place for Tim Mullen and a good tap up the behind for Andrew Capaldi.
And they also on the Concordi car, the 56, had a problem with a broken splitter at the front. On turn 1, there's a physical lump put into the road by organisers to try and prevent cars taking too much curb on the entry part of turn 1. It's actually hit a number of cars quite hard at the front on the splitter as they've run over it.
So Tim Mullen looking very good this weekend, in third place by 0.2 of a second, and getting very, very close to the back end of the 51 AF Corsa car of Christian Montanari. That was a very definite tap on the back to say, I am quicker than you, now move aside.
Looking one side, looking the other, and then trying the third option, which is go straight through.
Yes. No, it's a non-contact formula, obviously, but Tim Mullen's just announced his presence, just in case Montanari hadn't noticed there was a big red car behind him. He's let him know, and that gap really academic, that 0.3 of a second, because as you can see, that's the gap, and it's not really measurable on the stopwatch.
No, this is all about racecraft again, but equally, it's also about weight you're carrying and 25 kilos of ballast aboard the 51 car with whom we're now on board. This is the view out of the front that Christian Montanari can see, but what he's more concerned about at the moment is the view out of the back, which is Tim Mullen full on.
And again, we're coming up to the S's. We've come through that little flick-flack of the chicane where you have to ride the curves well. Now coming up to the S's, it's a breaking point at the end of the second longest straight on the circuit, but Tim Mullen's not confident enough and not close enough to get past him there. You will see overtaking there later on in the race, I feel sure. You didn't see it there from Tim Mullen, but you might see a stab from him as we go past the pits. There's the pit lane entrance. Look, he's taking wide entry into this. He wants all the speed out of this corner to throw him onto the straight. He wants to be right up underneath the rear wing of that Ferrari as they go past the pits. Now, is he close enough? Does he think he can outbrake that 51 car? I don't think it's this time.
No, still fresh air to be seen between the two, about several millimetres of it, Richard. So clearly opportunity to pass there in turn 1, with again watching how tight a line Christian Montanari is having to halt and not allow Tim Mullen any space to attempt an approach.
Well, all he can do is keep piling on the pressure. Of course, while these two are doing this, what usually happens is they go a little bit slower than the person who's leading this. Jimmy Bruni is the top man in GT2, and last time around his margin was 4.4 seconds. There's our leading Porsche.
And he's the guy who's profiting from Tim Mullen and Montanari having such close attention to each other. On board with Richard Westbrook, who shares with Emmanuel Collard, and Westbrook is who started the race this weekend, and his gap up to Tim Mullen has been shrinking gradually, is down to just over 3.5 seconds as we speak, and his lap time's about half a second a lap quicker, while Tim Mullen determinedly tries to find a way past Montanari.
Still trying to find a way past. As you can see, they both lapped the Mosler, I think that was, that I just saw in the background, and they've come out together. Tony Villander's the man on the right-hand side there, watching that as impassively as only a Scandinavian can do.
No distress on that face, whatever, was there?
Nothing at all.
But then his teammate Jimmy Bruni is the one who's down the road by 4.5 seconds from his battle, so he won't be over-concerned with what's going on in the team's second car.
And again, we're coming up to this classic opportunity for Tim Mullen again. I don't think that he is close enough.
Coming up to put a lap on the track speed Porsche now in the hands of David Ashburn. That car too having made an early stop, so Richard Williams could hand over.
And can they... Well, no, it looks as though Montanari's got through. Mullen looking for the other side, and it works for him because he goes through as well, but it doesn't get him past the 51 car. So a little bit of creativity from Tim Mullen, but he got nothing for his planes.
But full marks to David Ashburn for being savvy enough to realise there was a Ferrari coming either side of him and not turning in instinctively in front of Tim Mullen while the AF Corsa car came around the other side.
Just hold that wheel and just shut your eyes and keep going is the only thing you can do. So still this goes on. We were, 20 minutes into this now. We've done 14 laps. And these two still the closest thing in GT2 at the moment is that 0-point gap between Mullen and Montanari, and then
behind them is even
0 point and then 0 point.
Exactly, it's Rob Bell making up time on Richard Westbrook in the Porsche. That's the leading trio, however, all Ferraris. Then it's the Porsche number 61, followed by Rob Bell in the 56 CR Scuderia car. That was the one that got nerfed by the now recovering Sandy Negrão, whose second string Maserati is up to 17th place.
And into the pits comes one of our Mos. I was just looking tyres. Russo has got Negrão behind him, and 95, the advanced engineering Picon, the other Argentinians running in GT2, have got a 0-point gap as well. So it's still very close all the way through GT2. And look at this.
That's that battle I was talking about there. Richard Westbrook just managing to hold off Rob Bell as they both made their way past David Ashburn. But Rob Bell's got the title line on the exit of the corner. Can he hold it? That's the view out of the front of Richard Westbrook. What he doesn't want to see is that red Ferrari coming up alongside anytime soon.
I think he's just about got away with it that time, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, and it's the interference, if you like, of the slower cars that they have to lap, which adds spice to these battles all the way down through the field. In the background, there is Zandy Negrau's Maserati with the yellow mirrors distinguishing itself from Michael Bartels.
And between this battle and the Maserati, there is Russo in that number 95. So he's close and in touch with this. So there's a lot going on in GT2. It's still the same story up the front in GT1. Muller, Bouchou, Wendinger, the gaps are still pretty much the same there, although Bouchou, I think, is he's no closer to Muller, and Wendinger is still right there glued in his rear-view mirror. And
the Corvette pairing of Fessler and Gollin still not able to make inroads on the Ferrari. There they are. We're back to have a look at that GT1 battle with the two Corvettes still going hammer and tongs to find a way past the older Ferrari, but not yet able to make any move.
In the cockpit of number 6 yet again, Fabrizio Gollin half a second behind Marcel Fassler. Last time they went past the pits. And there is your race leader. That is Alex Muller. Not as per script, but it'll do, won't it?
Absolutely. Jet Alliance won't be too disappointed with that. And Carl Wendinger certainly keeping in touch with Christophe Bouchou. The gap seems to yo-yo between half a second and a second. It's pretty much exactly halfway between those two at the moment. Just 7 tenths separating those two as they cross the line to complete 16 laps.
And we'll be thinking, of course, strategy sometime soon. There have got to be 2 changes, there's got to be fuel, there may or may not have to be tyres. Here I think they'll want to do more tyres than perhaps they want to, because of course it takes time. So who knows what strategy Jet Alliance have got up their sleeve.
Back to the 4th place battle in GT2 as Richard Westbrook continues to hold off the charging Rob Bell in the second CR Scuderia car. A scheduled stop, I would imagine, for the number 7 car. This is the Greg Franchi driven Lara Competition car. That's on Fox will take that car over. First of their 2 stops.
Bang on cue, really.
Yeah, just because you mentioned them, is it?
Yeah, pit stops have happened. Here's the battle in GT2. Negrau in the Maserati has got his way past that 56 Ferrari of Rob Bell and come between him and the Porsche, and given Richard Westbrook a little bit of a breathing space. What Westbrook doesn't want to do now is let Negrau through and see Bell nip past on the back of him.
No, it's a difficult situation because ultimately there will be no blue flags to help the Maserati. He's got to find his own way past. Indeed, down the start-finish straight is one place where he can really get the horsepower going. He does so and is clear, which means Rob Bell can now begin to try and tow up again onto the back of Richard Westbrook, who mustn't be suckered into trying to keep pace with the Maserati all the way around, and he will end up in the kitty litter somewhere.
Well, Richard Westbrook, I think that broke rather well for him, because he could well have found himself looking at a Ferrari trying to get past on the coattails of the Maserati. Hasn't happened. It was a nice clean pass all out in the open air, so to speak, from the ground, so they can resume, as you say, Graham. And look, they've slowed up. They're fighting each other, and look who's closing up behind them. That 95 Ferrari of Matthias Russo is now closer than it was. It was 0.8 last time around. It isn't now. That motor was nearly off, wasn't it?
Pushed wide by the GT1 cars, all hammering through behind. David Ashburn once again having to keep his wits about him as the leaders go through, and just running very wide to make room for all and sundry going past at the moment. A torrid time for David out there. The 57 car joining in for fun as well as the Kessel Racing entry for Fabrizio Del Monte.
And we've still got this happening up front. Look, first, second and third all together in your picture, and as you can see, making their way past the GT2 field now. And look at the number of cars that Michael Bartels has got now between him and the cars he's chasing after, and that really is going to be hard work for him and fairly dispiriting, especially when you can no longer see the ones you're after. And the gap between him and third place is now 8.5 seconds.
Michael Bartels making short work of passing the David Ashburn Porsche again. Huge difference in speed potential between those two cars, but if you catch them on the wrong part of this circuit, you could be behind them forever. that battle still squabbling over 6th place in GT1 is all at the same time going to attempt to get past the slower Porsche as well. Here they go.
He's doing a good job keeping out of everyone's way, isn't he?
Yes,
As you
he
said,
is.
he's really driving out of his skin just to stay out of the way.
Yep, just keeping sensible. And what have we got there? One of the Moslers being passed by Golin, so it's still Lopez, Fassler, Golin in 5th, 6th and 7th places, and all of them trying to keep on terms with Michael Bartels, but he's now got a second and a bit between himself and the pursuing Ferrari.
Well, I think now that we've cleared that little bit of traffic, I think we might see those gaps close up again. You need an empty track in order to work your way forward to the car in front. We've seen that happen, and then they caught up with the slower GT2 cars, and that slowed them all up and opened the gaps up.
Clouting the curbs hard to keep ahead of the Corvette there.
So, Buller leads it, Bouchou's second, Wendlinger is in 3rd place, Michael Bartels still mired in 4th, and this Ferrari in 5th place. That's the order here at Oschersleben. Michael Bartels has got his hands full of the number 1 Maserati and a windscreen full of the number 7 Saleen. He's trying to lap it, he's trying to stay with the race leaders who've already gone through here, but he's got this behind him, and that's the 37 Ferrari of Jose Maria Lopez, who is doing much better than we expected.
Absolutely, Bartels getting badly held up in traffic over the last couple of laps and allowing the whole train behind him, Lopez, Fessler, Colin, to close up right together. Colin, in fact, has now got separated by more traffic, so he's a little way back, but that's the gap now, which is all about 4th position.
Muller leads this after 21 laps and just over half an hour. Wendlinger is second by 2 seconds because Christophe Bouchou is in third place and is 15 seconds down. Now something's happened to Christophe Bouchou.
Bouchou's had
that
a
we
spin
didn't
out
see.
of sight.
Something bad's happened to it. It may just be a little rotation, and he has dropped out of second place. He's still in third. Michael Bartels is 1 and a bit seconds behind him, but as we saw, Michael Bartels got other things to think about. So a lot going on in this race.
Yes, less than a second covering that gaggle of 4 cars, as we've still got the interloper in the middle there, the number 7 Vincent Voss car, which has already done its pit stop, of course.
Bruni Montanari Mullen is the GT2 top 3.
Still just a quarter of a second between Tim Mullen and Christian Montanari, giving Christian no peace at all in his pursuit, but not able either to get past Bartels. Now he's clear of that traffic, able to open up the gap again to 1.5 seconds from the pursuing Ferrari, who in turn has got half a second of Marcel Fessler and just 0.3 from Fessler back to Golin.
And Golin's got stuck behind the Celine this time around as they go past the hotel. He'll try and pass him on the run here down towards the chicane in a moment, but you can see for yourself there how much time and distance he's lost just being stuck in traffic.
The Celine has got bucket loads of power. That's the problem that Golin has got, and although he should be getting blue flags from the marshals because they're all GT1 cars and they all look as though they belong together, unless the marshals are astute, they may not realise that they should be blue flagging the 7 car.
He is a lap down, and therefore it's really his job to get out of the way, but of course he's got other things to think about.
Well, just keeping on track here at all is one of them. We see a pit stop for the number 57 car. Maurizio Del Monte will hand over to the tall, lanky frame of Swiss driver Henri Moser, last year's GT3 champion, promoted into GT2 as a reward for his efforts.
Scheduled pit stops, 2 of. Driver changes, 2 of. Refuelling has to happen. Tyre changes, depends.
It's a little slow getting the car down off the jacks there. The hands way up in the air way earlier than the car actually went down, so a little delay there they can ill afford, as we've got the 36 car still. Alex Muller ahead of Carl Wendler, of course. Bouchou, having had that little rotation a couple of laps ago, has dropped down to third. Michael Bartels now just 0.6 behind.
The rotation we saw on the bottom of the screen said car number 60, which is one of the Porsches, but I wonder if Carl Wendlinger didn't brush past Bouchou, because he's a lot closer now than he was.
Ryan, what a great start for Jet Alliance.
Yeah, it didn't go quite as intended at the first corner there, with Alex getting up to first and Carl up to third, but he's back into second now. I don't know what happened to Bouchou, but all that matters is we're up in second, and I think he's now catching Alex and pulling away from third, so if we can keep that up to the end of the race, we'll all be happy.
Well, that's exactly what he is doing, because he's 0.3 of a second behind Alex Muller. And Carl Wendlinger, of course, hugely experienced, and experienced enough to know that the early laps aren't going to necessarily decide the outcome of this race.
No, but Jet Alliance will be pleased to see both the cars running healthily after a disappointment at Adria, where neither of them saw the checkered flag.
Now look, it's first and second, and remember, of course, they won the opening round of the year in Silverstone in tricky conditions, paid the penalty with excess ballast, and have been working their way back towards full strength when the double transmission failure of Adria put them out of contention.
And as we look at Michael Bartels, you can see the gap he's now been able to pull out over the Ferrari, as in comes Christophe Bouchou to make his stop, to hand over to Xavier Marson, the young Dutch driver who's joining the SRT team this season.
And 60 kilometres an hour must seem painfully slow in the pit lane. That puts Michael Bartels up into third place, of course, and you should never discount Michael Bartels. That third place might have come as a result of an early pit stop from the number 3 car that you're looking at now, but they will capitalise on that round at Vitaphone, and they will do their pit stop trick, you can be sure.
The other car that's starting to capitalise is the number 2 Maserati. As we look at Michael Bartels, his teammate in the number 2 car, now Zandy Negrão, of course, has made it back up into the top 10, having already made one of their 2 mandatory stops.
That's going to be an interesting piece of work. They've still got to stop again, but at the moment they are a pit stop in hand over everybody except now Xavier Masson as he makes his way out. This is where the race order starts to become confusing, and you have to think who stopped and who hasn't, because people are running out of position, and that is getting very exciting indeed, isn't it?
Marcel Fessler clearly getting fed up with following the back of that red Ferrari, and he wants past any which way he can. They've both now, the Corvettes, the GMAC sponsor cars, managed to clear the back-marking, relatively speaking, number 7 Vincent Voss, La Competition Celine. So it's now a clean fight between these three. We're looking at it from the back of the three, and Fessler again having a look at the tail end of that Ferrari as another Ferrari, this time a GT2 example, comes in out of what was third place. Tim Mullen has given his best fight to Christian Montanari, but not been able to get past. He's now in to hand over to team patron Chris Niarchos.
And Chris will come out at the tail end of the GT2 battle, and of course that'll all shake out as the rest of them make their stops. Here we are. The Corvettes, of course, are lightening up now because they're burning off fuel. Remember, they're carrying success ballast from Adria, and as they go towards the end of this hour, they'll weigh less because of the fuel they've burned, and they'll start to deliver a bit more of their potential, and that could well put Jose Maria Lopez into a spot of bother.
Yeah, Fabrizio Gollin taking to the Corvette like a duck to water, having raced with Aston Martin last year. He's made the trip across the paddock to join Corvette, and relishing the challenge of being alongside Mike Hazelman's in the car this season.
Let's see, this is, again, we've said, an overtaking opportunity, but the number 5 car is a little bit too far away, I think, from the back end of 37, and the Ferrari gets through the S's nice and cleanly with no attempt at a pass from Marcel Fessler behind him. But he knows that just round this corner is the long front straight and then turn 1, and that is the classic opportunity here at Oschersleben. But that's a car coming into the pit, so it's not going to happen.
That is Marcel Fessler coming through pit lane. It's a very rapid entry into the pit lane until you hit the line there where the 2 blue cones are, and that is the mark where 60 kilometres is your maximum. You exceed it at your peril.
Well, they've obviously decided to Phoenix Racing that there's no future in following the Ferrari round at less than your best pace, and the answer is a bit of fresh rubber, fresh driver, a bit more fuel and clean air, and see if you can travel at your own pace.
And the fresh driver comes in the form of Jean-Denis Delatraz, hugely experienced driver, driving everything from prototypes. He's won the P2 class and 675 as it was at Le Mans many years ago, but still racing healthily in GTs and loving every minute of it.
So the Ferrari man still has rear view mirrors full of yellow and blue. It's Fabrizio Gollin who's closed up right up behind him, which just goes to show that the Corvette is quicker, isn't it? Because there was previously a car in that gap, now there's no gap.
Yeah, absolutely, and it didn't take long for that to happen, did it? Less than a lap, as you say, Richard. We're looking back through the screen again at the rear of this very purposeful, still-looking Ferrari, one of the prettiest GT car ones ever produced, I suspect.
And Fabrizio Gollin, I think maybe slightly less patient than Marcel Fessler. He really wants this, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. They've both suffered at the hands of this car. They believe they're now a lot further back down the road from the podium battles than they believe they should be, but they're still actually not able to get through. We've got one more stab to come down into turn 1. There's a very little gap between the two, but I still don't think there's enough of an opportunity there. He's going to have a look. He's going to have a look, but discretion being the better part of Ala pulls in to take the line again. There's slower traffic ahead, which may disturb the Argentinian in the Ferrari ahead of him just enough to give the little Corvette that time to have a look through, but can't see it happening. The battle we're looking at is the GT2 one between 95, which is Matthias Russo in the Argentinian crewed Ferrari, and they've now joined battle with Richard Westbrook.
And they've got this battle coming through between them. Gollin looking for the opportunity, as you say, but he hasn't found it yet. And you're right about what they might feel about their relative position, because they're almost 30 seconds away from the race leader at this point, and that's really further back than they want to be if they want to be in with a shout of a good podium. Through the chicane, Gollin dropping back. Is he going to launch now and get on the gas hard? He's looking for a pass on the back of this Ferrari. He's getting stuck behind the Porsche, and it hasn't happened, and so he'll have to follow him around again. Oh, now he comes down the inside. He's definitely getting threatening, but he wasn't close enough to make the pass happen there. But he's just shown Jose Maria Lopez what's about to happen. And Lopez, of course, will have seen the front end of the Corvette, and he'll be driving into turn 1 in defensive mode.
Yeah, but the young Argentinian touring car race will be used to soaking up this sort of pressure, although not perhaps in this sort of car.
gap gets bigger there. The Ferrari gets off the mark fairly quickly, and that's bad news for Golin, because he just couldn't stay with it on the exit of that final corner, and that meant he was too far away as they came to the first turn, and no chance that time. So Golin working hard.
In GT2, we're starting to see the battle just changing shape slightly as Christian Montanari comes in from what was second place, which is now taken by Rob Bell, who out of our sight made his way past Richard Westbrook's Porsche several laps ago and was off in pursuit of Jimmy Bruni, but still 12.5 seconds shy. This is the routine stop to hand over from Christian Montanari to Thomas Biaggi. Biaggi will rejoin in the fray, and battle will be resumed.
Back out goes the 51 car then. Pit lane speed limits are on 60 kilometres an hour, and you'll see the white line that says that you can go faster there, but you can't. You can go 500 metres further on before you're allowed to exceed 60 kilometres, which is a little bit confusing for everybody.
The top half dozen yet to make their first mandatory stops. First to have done so, of course, is now number in 7th place, that number 2 Maserati, Santi Negrão, and that tactic's starting to pay out for them. Behind as Negrão is Jean-Denis Delatraz, the first of the 2 Corvettes to have stopped.
I'll tell you what, you say it's paying off for Santi Negrão. He's currently in 7th place, and he is looking at 1 to 6, positions 1 to 6, all owing a pit stop. He's stopped, they haven't, and that puts him in a very favourable position.
Yes, he does. They're a best part of a lap down, but a lap doesn't take very long round here, and a pit stop will, because there's a driver change. Big lock up there from Jose Emilio Lopez, just getting overexcited into the corner, then missing his braking point, locking up in a flat spot in the tyre, doing that. Golin's right along the inside of him. Can he make it past this time? No, the Argentinian will not give way.
Well, you said he was used to soaking it up. He really took it right out to the limit there and dangled over the edge of the cliff for a moment, but he just skated through there by the skin of his teeth and fought off Golin, who thought he had a chance, but he's still got a yellow Corvette behind him. And Santi Negrão, let's go back to that a minute, because he's in 7th place. He's a minute and 11 seconds behind the leaders, and it will take pretty close to that to make a pit stop.
Yep, absolutely so. And Jean-Denis Delatraz already into the groove, setting his car's fastest lap, 1:26.1. More GT2 action as we see Scuderia Ecosse coming in. Jamie Davies, it was who I think started that car this weekend, so he'll be handing over to the hugely experienced Fabio Babini.
Tyres going on, and driver change completes off. The auto start gets it going straight away, nice and cleanly this time, no trouble with the drive shaft.
No, and talking of tyres, they are Pirelli tyres on that, as opposed to Michelin's on many of the other runners. A new construction and compound of tyre available to the Pirelli runners. That's Scuderia Ecosse and the BMS Scuderia Italia this weekend, and all teams reporting that it's a huge improvement for them.
The air jacks drop the cars when the line is disconnected, and the drivers all have their thumb on an auto start button. Then they've got the car in gear and the clutch depressed, and it lands and the engine fires up automatically, and they just dump the clutch and drive away. And we've seen several times that can snap a drive shaft, especially on the Ferraris, as in comes Fabrizio Golin. He's finally given up, hasn't he?
He's had enough of seeing the back end of that red Ferrari in front of him, and has come in to hand over to Mike Hazeman to say, right, I've given it my best shot, mate, now it's up to you. Be interesting to see whether, when Lopez hands over to new driver for the car, Martin Basso, if Martin Basso is able to carry the same sort of pace around here as the Lopez driven portion of the race has shown. Away goes Mike Hazeman.
1:26, Lopez's best lap in the Ferrari, but his last lap was 1:29, which just goes to show it's taken him 3 seconds a lap to keep Fabrizio Golin behind him, really.
Yes, it has indeed, and off he goes. We're looking at the end car as they blend back in at turn 1. It's not the easiest of places to come safely onto the track. Hopefully he can find a gap in the traffic, and he has done exactly that. Give a little bit of time for the tyres to come back up to temperature, but as little as you can manage, as we watch the SRT Corvette, now in hands, of course, of Xavier Marson, making its way back up through the field. It was 9th place last time round, and into the pits has come Carl Wendlinger from 2nd place.
Now, we saw Ryan Sharp in pit lane earlier on. He was talking to Haley, and he already had his crash helmet on, so they've done the driver change. They're now doing the wheel change. That means that Alex Muller is the race leader, with Michael Bartels in 2nd place, and That was a black and white Corvette of Masson, wasn't it?
Was unlapping himself from the back of the Aston Martin. So clearly a lot of pace in that Corvette. There it is, making its way past the slower GT2 car and the G2 Mosler, staying out wide to allow the race leader Alex Muller, still to make steady progress at the head of the field. And finally off. He's overcooked it. Has gone. Jose Maria Lopez, oh dear, buried it in the tyre wall. A little bounce back. Has he lost the engine? No, he's managed to keep the engine going, reversed out, a little bit of wheel spin, and rejoin the circuit as quickly as he can, but that will have cost him time in places. It must be time to dive into the pits.
Well, he'll definitely have to bring it in now and get new tyres. Just got it up on that curve, unsettled it, and quite a gentle off, and he did well, didn't he, to keep it going. But you can see he took his foot off the brake to try and steer it, and that didn't work. And just a gentle nudge into the tyres. Let's hope it hasn't done too much damage, but he'll definitely be in the pits now. And that's a shame, because it was all going terrifically well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was a sterling performance by that crew. Mike Hazeman's already getting into the groove, setting the fastest first sector time of all in the number 6 car as he goes off in pursuit of Jean-Denis Delatraz, who stopped a lap earlier in his Corvette. Now we see the Vitaphone number 1 car. Andrea Bertolini, former Ferrari test driver, will take that over from Michael Bartels, who was so eager to get the result here this weekend. It's now down to his teammate Andrea to see if he can do the biz.
Only Alex Muller and the 37 Ferrari of Jose Maria Lopez in the top 9 have not stopped, but Lopez of course will be in any moment now. And where does that put Sandy Negrão? At the moment that puts him up into 4th place, and he's about he's quite a long way down on the leaders, isn't he, as in comes 37 as predicted.
Yes indeed, and it will be the 37 car coming to rest. We look out through the window, there's the refueling going on already. The driver change can happen while that goes on. We're not allowed to work on the wheels, but we are allowed to clean the screen.
But can we see what's happened to the front of it? This is the bit that nosed in, and in comes Muller as well. So everybody now has stopped all the way down to Rob Bell, who is the highest placed non-stopper at the moment. The GT2 leader is in 9th place overall.
Mike Hazeman's has been champing at the bits to get into that car of his, the number 6 Corvette. He's just set the race's fastest lap, a 1:25.4, on only his 2nd lap out of the pits. Full of fuel. And with success ballast.
Full of lead as well, yes. So it'll be the number 1 car of Bertolini, probably, that leads at the end of this lap, but then the 36 car will come out. That was a bit of a late start from the pit lane, wasn't it?
Yep, there's the 36 car getting its refettling.
Hot tyres off, warm tyres on. New driver in now. Lucas Lichtenhoyer is not as quick as Alex Muller, is he?
No, he's not, and it'll be interesting to see just how much time this car can hold on to before Lucas hands back to Muller to complete the race.
Well, look, there goes the 33 car. Brian Sharp has just gone past. That's Sandy Negrão, who is currently in 2nd place. Delatraz is somewhere behind that by about 10 seconds as the GT2 pit stops continue. 61, the Pro Speed car coming in. Richard Westbrook's done a really good job with that, and now we hand over to Emmanuel Collard, who's I think still the only driver in the pit lane who wears that distinctive Stilo helmet like the rally drivers use, with sort of half a full face helmet.
Yes, that's and great visibility out of those, which is why he likes it so much. The 61 car late in making its stop, along with Matthias Russo, who is still yet to stop out of GC2, and Michael Forsten, teammate to the number 61 car, Richard Westbrook's car, and Collard, with whom we're now on board. They've yet to stop as well. Everybody else has made their first mandatory stop. So Russo, by dint of that, is currently running 2nd on the timing screens in class. So that may convert into 1st as Andrew Kokordi's car 56 we saw in the pits just now with Rob Bell handing over will tumble down the order slightly. These are the 2 Corvettes. This is number 5, is Jean-Denis Delatraz, and he's trading punches, if you like, with team patron Mike Hazeman's in the car just behind him.
No team orders, of course, and they don't show each other much mercy on track either. They do race, which is one of the great things about this team. If they're side by side, they will go racing. 33, Ryan Sharp is showing as our race leader now after 34 laps. Sandy Negrão has managed to catapult himself up into second place ahead of Lucas Lickner-Hoyer. 51 you're looking at here is now Thomas Biaggi in the AF Corsa car, and that's him behind the wheel there, and his teammate Tony Villander in the number 50 car is the effective leader of GT2 once Senor Russo decides to bring the 95 car in.
Yes, correct. So it'll be Vilander, Cocodi and Malucelli, which will be the running order in GT2.
Sharp, McGraw and Lickner-Hoyer are the men at the top of GT1. 34 laps complete and just about an hour of racing still ahead of us. The number 33, Aston Martin of Carl Wendlinger and Ryan Sharp, started this race from pole position, and after being bustled aside in turn one on lap one, he's back out in front after just less than an hour of racing. Ryan Sharp now at the wheel leads Sandy Negrao, and who would have thought that that would have worked out as well for them?
Well, clearly the team did when they did all their calculations, so top marks again to Vitaphone. They really do their thinking in the pit lane as much as they do in the car. The Aston Martin just going out of shot is that of Lucas Lickner-Hoyer, who's now coming under increasing pressure from the two Corvettes, split for the moment by the 37 Ferrari. We've seen them battling in the past, but now the Ferrari, after that little incident involving Jose Maria Lopez nudging into the tyres, and the subsequent pit stop has dropped Martin Basso a lap behind, and he will now be just fighting for survival, locking up himself, trying to stay out of the way of the second of the two Corvettes. That's Jean-Denis Delatraz now. Mike Hazeman, having made the pass on his teammate in pursuit of Lucas Lichtner-Hoyer, just 1.5 seconds the gap between those two. So the Corvettes now shaping up to go for podium finishes.
Sharp growl, Lichtner-Hoyer 1, 2 and 3, and still Martin Basso locking up the brakes on that as the Maserati goes.
And that is a genuine battle, because it's Alain Ferte who's taken over the JMB Maserati, the dark blue one, from Ben Alcott, who started the race, and he's made that a pass. So up into 10th place now has gone Alain Ferte.
Mike Hazeman, as you say, Graham, is in 4th place and just ahead of Jean-Denis Delatraz. That's him there in the number 5 Corvette, and he's chasing after Lucas Lichtner-Hoyer. Let's go to the shot there, and yes, it is a lot closer, isn't it?
Yeah, and it must be said there's some gap between the driving, shall we say, experience of these two. Hazeman's having a much longer CV in terms of racing than Lucas Lichtner-Hoyer. Although Lucas does his level best in the car, he really will not be a match for someone of Mike Hazeman's experience and tenacity, and I shouldn't think it'll be that long before we see the Corvette up into 3rd place. I
think Mike Hazeman is the most experienced driver in this championship by virtue of his number of starts in this series.
Yeah, and son of Toyne Hazeman, who himself has years and years and years of racing experience and still works unstintingly for the team.
Yes, he's here every weekend. Saw him here in the paddock this morning, and after, well, being in it as long as you and I, perhaps even as long as you and I combined, he still hasn't lost his enthusiasm.
Not a bit of it. The order in GT2, as we suspected, has panned out with Tony Vilander ahead of Andrew Coccodi and Matteo Malicelli up into 3rd place at the expense of Thomas Biaggi during the stops.
Only 1.7 seconds between them though, so that's quite close. Ryan Sharp, Sandy Nagao, Lucas Lichtner-Hoyer, that's 1st, 2nd and 3rd in GT1. Don't expect it to remain like that for much longer, as Graham said, and that's the reason why the number 6 Corvette of Mike Hazeman is now chewing away at the back bumper of the Aston Martin, and any moment now is just going to whip past Lucas Lichtner-Hoyer, and that was a very, very cheeky move by Mike Hazeman. Lichtner-Hoyer not having any of it, saying, no, you can't do it that easily.
Absolutely, and we can see the telltale signs of traffic ahead again, and will it be the wily Hazemans who can make best use of it, or will he need to? As he actually made the pass stick into turn 1, he's going to be pushing the Aston very wide in his attempt, and indeed pushed him right off the track. Now I wonder if that will bring about a little thought from the stewards, because it looked as though he dived very, very deep into turn 1 and then leaned on the Aston Martin, giving him nowhere to go but off the side of the track. The net result being that Jean-Denis Delatraz has been able to follow through, and the Corvette's now running 3rd and 4th.
Well, if Mike Hazeman didn't get an unfair advantage out of that, it's certainly true that Jean-Denis Delatraz was a major beneficiary.
Yes, he'll have a huge smile going on under his crash helmet, won't he? Here's a replay of it. Mike Hazeman's just ducking out at the last minute, but from a long way back, and perhaps an optimistic lunge.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think
Lichtner-Hoyer
panicked a bit.
Yes, I think Lichtner-Hoyer probably thought this is going to end in tears if I don't make the decision to back away. That's Alex Muller sitting in the chair thinking, all right, well, I've got some work to do when I get back in again, because they will want to have a good result for the team after the disappointment last time round.
I bet he was also thinking, I wouldn't have got out of his way.
Don't suppose he would, no. But Corvettes are in fact made of something indestructible, and if you bump into one, you tend to come off second best.
So Lucas Lichtner-Hoyer rather unkindly bundled out of the way by Mike Hazeman and making room for his teammate to have a bit of it as well. And I think I know what Andrea Bertolini is trying to say.
So please come out of my way if you wouldn't mind.
Let's have a word with their chief strategist, Raffaele, in the pit lane now and find out what's happening with Maserati.
Raffaele, it's not quite the race you were hoping for, but still only halfway.
I didn't understand everything, but I think the race in the moment it ran very good for us, because car number 2 started from grid number 12, and now they are on second position, and we only need 1 second driver change. Therefore things are looking good, and everybody else has to change another time too. I hope that car number 1 with Bertolini on the wheel, that we can pass some cars, but the main thing is that we reach points.
Thank you, Raffaele.
The thing is, having them as your team of the week doesn't mean they tell you what they're going to do, and they still keep all their secrets close to their chest, don't they?
Absolutely, but Andrea Bertolini is making no secret of the fact that he wants progress through the field for himself. He doesn't want to be finishing behind the number 2 car. He wants to be on the top step of the podium. Nothing else will satisfy his teammate Michael Bartels, of that you may be sure. And in between him and doing that, there are 5 cars he's got to get past. The first of which is this one. Lucas Lickner-Hoyer, having been steamrolled past by the 2 Corvettes, now has his mirrors full of Andrea Bertolini's pale blue Maserati on the way through, having disposed of the J&B car. Alan Thursday going down another lap.
And a very angry Andrea Bertolini, in fact a gesticulating Andrea Bertolini, if I may make so bold.
Yes, and the battle we're looking at now for 3rd place in GT2, Matteo Malucelli in the yellow and red Ferrari, the Pirelli-sponsored one, ahead, but only just ahead of a charging Thomas Biaggi, making up places, wanting to restore the traditional 1-2 for AF Corsa, but he's not only got to get past Malucelli, he's then got to head off up the road in pursuit of CR Scuderia's Andrew Coccotti.
Andrew Coccordi's got a bit of clean air, so he's making an escape, and as you say, Malucelli coming under pressure. Biaggi was 1.5 seconds behind him, then it was half a second last time past, and now it's quite clearly a bit less than that, and then sometimes it's a bit more than that as the yo-yo thing happens in and out of the corners. But Thomas Biaggi, you may be sure, is in a position to challenge for that position, and that's precisely what he's going to do, and probably any second now as well. As we come to the end of the front straight, he looks down the inside. Is he going to launch an attack? He's thought about it and thought better of it, goes to the other side and tries to carry some speed into this corner. Now if he can carry it all the way through, he might just get a chance to stuff him up the inside, but I don't think that's going to happen either. They're so evenly matched, aren't they?
As much as anything, showing the car both sides of the Malucelli Porsche, the Ferrari, aiming to unsettle his look into the corner, just getting him to let go of the Ferrari into the corner and not make his way through, but he can't do it. Malucelli is not going to be fazed by this. However, joining into the fun has come Anthony Kumpen in the Celine, recovering from an early spin while in the hands of Bert Longin that dropped them way down the order, back up now into 8th place, which is not a bad result for them. They've got themselves past the equivalent Labra competition version in the hands of Vincent Voss, but the Celine not really the weapon of choice in GT1 this season. We're back on board with Thomas Biaggi, still trying to find a way past Matteo Malucelli. There's a 1/10 of a second in it, nothing more.
He might find that he was going to have a go, wasn't he? He was going to try and go with Anthony Kumpen if he could, past Malucelli, but it didn't work out like that because Kumpen did it on a nice long straight bit and Malucelli had plenty of warning. But again, he's on the inside and he's done it that time. Coming into the S's there, that was just as easy as you like, wasn't it?
Yes, I think Malucelli finally realised that ultimately the fight was lost, as he didn't even defend the place.
Well, Matteo Malucelli may well have done the gentlemanly thing there. And I'd have to say, being perfectly honest, that you don't see that very often in GT2, do you?
No, you don't often see it anywhere much. The next person steaming up behind him to try and get the same cooperation will be a Porsche. The Porsche in the hands of Emmanuel Collard. That might be a little bit more sternly rebuffed as Ryan Sharp runs through to complete a 43rd lap with Zandy Negrão now some 16 seconds adrift.
So it is the Jet Lions Aston Martin at the pointy bit in P1, and this is the order in GT2. And as Graham was saying just now, Andrew Coccordi there spoiling the AF Corsa party, their first and second places, which they've over the years come to, I think, regard as theirs by right, although last time out was their first this year, I think, of the formation finish. Andrew Coccordi looking very strong there for CR Scuderia, and that's really very encouraging. But Biaggi is now in clear air and at 7.5 seconds behind him. That was an awful lot of dust, but that's all it was. Yeah,
Corvette kicking up the dust as Andrea Bertolini, we see, has made his way past Lucas Lickner-Hoyer, so that's one of his contenders out of the way. Next target, Jean-Denis Delatraz in the second of the 2 Corvettes. There is the Maserati, still a beautiful looking car. The view out from the front will show us his next target.
And that's 1, 2 and 3. Ryan Sharp, 29-year-old Scotsman, out in front looking for win number 2 of the year in 4 races. That would indeed be a good result for him and the team.
As they come up against lower traffic again, always an opportunity for a quicker driver to make his pass on a contender while they get held up behind. In fact, boxing them in is great. One of the Moslers running relatively slowly, although that perhaps should be expected of a G2 car, and round again comes Bertolini to start another lap as into the pits comes the 77 car. This is the sister to this, in fact, is Malucelli coming in for their second stop, and he will hand back to Paolo Roberti.
That may well explain why he didn't put up any resistance to that pass. He may well have decided that his tyres were shot and he was on his way in. And let's have a look. Maserati, how are our team of the week placed to realise their ambitions? It's Sharp, McGraw, Hazeman, Delatraz, Bertolini, so they are second and fifth at the moment, but back to front.
Slower lap by Delatraz last time round, allowing Bertolini to really close up the gap. That is it now between Bertolini and Delatraz for fourth. Less than half a second as they round another of these tight little twists. No way through here. You've got to build up head of speed and then try and outbrake, but he's closer and closer as they're coming down through the back of the circuit, through the little McDonald's, it's called, a chicane at the bottom of the field that come up the lengthy straight now towards the right-left flick-flack, and then round towards the end of a further lap. More slower traffic in front to be negotiated.
And as you saw, objects in real life are closer than they appear on the onboard camera. The Corvette looks a long... Oh, he got all squirrely on the curb. That was not good for Delatraz, but it hasn't done Bertolini any favours, or has it? He's got to launch. He wants it, but I think Delatraz got away with that, didn't he? Just.
He did. It's Fabio Babini up ahead of him. Babini, well enough experienced driver to know that these two GT1 cars bearing down on him should be given space. Let's hope they can all get safely through turn one without tears. Bertolini not able to launch there. The 78 car, that's Davide Rigon, the Italian out of Venice, parking his car. Please don't stop there. Oof, that's not a safe place to be on the exit of the last corner, straight onto the pit straight. The natural line there throws you out fairly wide. That is a bad place to stop if he's managed to lose the engine. No, he hasn't. Kicks it back into life. Meanwhile, we can rejoin the battle now that we've seen that safely through. This is number 2, and Hazemans has made the pass unseen by us up into second place. So Zandy Negrau's either made a mistake or Hazemans has had an absolute blinder, because Hazemans now pulling away in clear air, and it's going to be Ryan Sharp still heading the field, but now for Mike Hazemans, and Bertolini was still trying to make his way past Delatraz. In fact, he did that, didn't he? So we'll see how it all pans out next time we get a longer view. But Sandy Negrau down to third.
Team of the week information is that this could well be a tyre issue. Remember, they stopped very early, and this set of tyres has gone quite a long way, hasn't it? And there is the confirmation. Into the pit lane he comes, and that pretty much signs off on that it's a tyre thing.
Yes, could be a tyre thing, could be just that the fuel's getting critical as well, because remember they stopped on the end of lap 1, so it's been a very, very long stint for them. Only 51 minutes of the race remaining, and back down into that 60 km/h speed limit, which must feel absolutely deadly after the race speeds they've been doing out there.
And so it'll be driver change and fuel fill. A tear off on the windscreen, you'll notice. No messing about with aerosols and bits of cloth.
Absolutely not. Good stuff there. Miguel Ramos it is who will take over. That was a sterling piece of work by Zandy Negrau, new to the team this year, and the young Brazilian coming in and making himself quite at home, although he's had one or two issues with bumping into slower traffic.
I was just about to say, do you think that he's redeemed himself now for all his penalties that he's incurred? That drive might well have brought him back into
I would
the fold.
hope that will earn him a good slap on the back instead of a slap on the wrist.
And he's used to those. Ryan Sharp leads it. Mike Hazeman, as we said, is up to second. Delatraz is in third place. Bertolini is half a second behind him, as out goes the number 2 Maserati. And in the pit lane now is the man who handed the number 6 car over to Mike Hazemans. That's Fabrizio Gollin. Haley's with him now, so let's find out what he thinks of what's developing on track.
Fabrizio, still hoping to continue success from Adria.
No, it's not so easy to win the race. So in this moment, I think every car has a problem for the tires, because this track is very hard especially for the front tires. So in this moment, I don't know who can win, because in the end, for me, will be very difficult for everybody. So we hope to have another win, but I know in this moment we are in a good position. But For the tires, I'm not sure if we can push like now until the end. So we hope.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
You're welcome.
Isn't it nice, Graham, to have it confirmed by somebody in a position to know that nobody really knows what's going to happen next?
No, another puff of dust being kicked up by Jean-Denis Delatraz as Bertolini gets closer and closer to the rear of that and closer to a podium spot, which is part one of his mission, if you like. Once you get on the podium, you've only got 2 more steps to climb, and those are the ones that'll be hardest to achieve.
Andrea Bertolini, I think, looks a lot more relaxed behind the wheel of this car than Michael Bartels. Michael Bartels seemed to be working very hard on that steering wheel throughout his stint, and Andrea Bertolini looks very relaxed, doesn't he?
He does, more so in fact than Delatraz in the Corvette ahead of him, who's riding the car, the curbs quite hard to stay ahead of the pursuing Maserati. Bertolini, hugely experienced, of course, including Formula 1 test drives for Ferrari, and he's got a good line out and getting the back end of the Corvette, getting twitchy, just confirming what Fabrizio Goldin was saying about tyres being an issue here, and it looks as though there may just be enough pace in the Maserati. He's got the outside line into the first element of turn 1, he'll have to give way there, but he can't make it stick. I wondered if he might be able to just trawl up the inside through part 2 of that first corner, but no go. It's still the Delatraz car ahead, with Bertolini tucked right up under the rear wing, looking for another way past. That in turn has allowed Lucas Littner-Hoyer to get back up onto terms, just looking for a way through, nothing going there. That's a big rear end to try and get past, and a lot of grunt under the bonnet of the Corvette to tug him away from those slow corners.
Well, Andrea Bertolini was right alongside, but he didn't have the track position. He gets another chance, and there are really only 2 big opportunities on this circuit for overtaking. He's still close enough. Lucas Littner-Hoyer behind him, I think, is hoping to be able to take advantage of this, isn't he? I think Lucas Littner-Hoyer is coming in now, seeing Andrea Bertolini and Delatraz locked in this little battle and thinking there could be a room here for another Aston Martin.
Great in-car sounds there, listening to the engine, just watching how they balance the car on the throttle through these corners, using the brakes as little as possible and just keeping the car in line on the throttle pedal, and the result is that you stay as close as that.
Well, that was his opportunity as far as I'm concerned, and it didn't occur for him. So now we're coming back to where it all began, out onto the front straight. They're coming past us now in our commentary box, and he is close enough, I think, to challenge. Will he duck for the inside as they go into that corner? Yes, is the answer.
Great contact between the 2, but he just about made it through. I think they'll both survive that brush. No real intent, I think, of contact on either side, just that the door was not quite open wide enough for the Maserati to make it through, and certainly no quarter given by Jean-Denis Delatraz, who now has his mirrors full of Lucas Littner-Hoyer in the second string Jet Alliance Aston Martin.
Well, that was a little bit of bump and grind in turn 1, which we've seen all through this weekend in every class of racing. And Andrea Bertolini has now got in front of Delatraz, and Delatraz, slowed a little bit by that, has dropped back and not into the clutches of Lucas Littner-Hoyer, I don't think. But Littner-Hoyer will certainly be much encouraged by the fact that the Corvette's starting to look a little bit shaky, isn't it? And perhaps that's a combination of ballast and tyre wear.
And perhaps too, the Aston is just a little more gentle on its tyres than the Corvette. It has been the case that for the last few laps, Littner-Hoyer and indeed Xavier Martin in the pursuing Corvette have done better lap times than Delatraz and Bertolini. Part of that will be down to the fact that those 2 were battling so hard amongst themselves, but some of it may also be down to tyre degradation.
Well, just remind yourselves that somewhere out in front of all this, with a gap of 22 seconds now to second place, is Mike Hazeman, Ryan Sharp and Mike Hazeman, and this is the GT2 battle that we have been talking about. Thomas Biaggi has closed up with Andrew Kirkcaldy, and exactly as you predicted, Graham.
Second and third, they are running at the moment. Andrew Kirkcaldy ahead of Thomas Biaggi, but Biaggi's been closing him down, and Emmanuel Collard in the meantime says, well, while you 2 are at it, I'm going to sneak up on the back of you both, and his last lap a clear 2 seconds quicker than either of the Ferraris ahead. There is Collard doing what he does best, driving a Porsche at speed.
So Ryan Sharp clear by 22 seconds, Bertolini now third but 10 seconds down, Delatraz 1.5 seconds back and slightly demoralised by that. But once again we are treated to this sight which never ceases to entertain me, and I think you as well, Graham. Emmanuel Collard driving the wheels off a 911 like no one else you've ever seen.
And if you watched our coverage from Adria, you'll have known that the 61 car had a problem with the headlight coming loose. I just saw on that last shot where the curb was absolutely mullered by Emmanuel Collard that left headlamp is again shaking loose in its nacelle.
Yes, I can't help thinking that Emmanuel Collard's attitude to curbs may have contributed to headlamp failure last time out. But he is just delightful.
Emmanuel Collard's attitude to curbs is curb what curb?
So how big is the gap now as they go past us this time? 1.1 seconds. He is closing in, and this really does mark a resurgence for Porsche as far as I'm concerned. They've got themselves well and truly clobbered by Ferrari last year, but this car this year is there or thereabouts now, isn't it?
It is, but issues with legality, of course, and problems. And up the inside, Thomas Biaggi looking to make a pass on Andrea Cacordi. Cacordi able to maintain enough speed to hold him back for the moment, but it won't be long. And these three are all at it, hammer and tongs, as of course along comes the GT1 car of Andrea Bertolini to try and join in on the party while he tracks down Mike Hazelmans.
Let's not forget that Tony Villand has cleared off into the middle distance in the 50 AF Corsa Ferrari. He leads GT2, and this is the battle for second place. In comes number 5. We talked about tyre degradation, and pretty much on cue.
Yes, I think so. That's allowed Xavier Marson for the time being to move his Corvette, the black and white SRT version, up into 5th place. This is the train of cars we were looking at just a moment ago, still maintaining the same order, but all of them looking to get racy.
Time to get your Urals out again. My money's on Collard coming out of this better than either of the two Ferraris, but we'll keep a watching eye on that as Biaggi and Cacordi and Collard have to deal with this, because that is Andrea Bertolini intent on lapping them and chasing after the race leaders, Brian Sharp and Mike Hazelman, who are 22 seconds up the road in front of him, and we have only 40 minutes remaining on the clock.
Battle still joined. Collard through.
Sami Masson in the number 3 Corvette is in 5th place on the overall leaderboard. You're in the cockpit of the number 51 GT2 Ferrari, Thomas Biaggi, and he is looking at the back end of Emmanuel Collard now, who has got past him. And at the moment, although you can't see it with those captions on screen, I believe that Emmanuel Collard is trying to overtake Xavi Masson in the GT1 Corvette.
It's looking a bit that way. Masson actually making his way back up through the field into contention for a podium spot themselves. The 37 car is one that hasn't done as well in the hands of Martin Basso in his first go. We've got the Aston Martin making his way through. In the meantime, we'll head back down into pit lane for another driver feud with Haley.
Jose, you certainly put out a good fight there, but you seem to be having difficulties with the car.
We were fifth, and in the last lap before coming to the pits, I did a mistake in the fast corner. The brake pedals went a little bit long. We had a bit of temperature, and also we were struggling a bit. Not as the last race, but with the wear of the tires, the car was very slippery, especially on the rear, and we had no traction. Absolutely no traction. I was trying to hold the Corvettes behind me, but it's okay. I think we've been improving, but still a lot to work in, especially in the race.
Thank you, Jose.
His mum sewed his name on his overalls back to front. That's Jose Maria Lopez, not Lopez Jose Maria. Sorry.
You're allowed. We'll give you that one. Into the pits has come 55. That's Kristniakos. They suffered with a stop-go penalty for what we know not, but Kristniakos had to bring the car in during his stint, and as we'll be handing back to Tim Mullen. That's the Scuderia Ecosse car with Fabio Babini handing back to Yodel's Jamie Davies. Off he goes. And
Mike Hazemans has been into the pits and gone back out again, it says here, but I'm sure that when the car comes around, the transponder will say that it is once again the driver change. Fabrizio Gollin that has taken place. We're looking at 62 leaving pit lane. Vilander, Cacaldi and Collard is what it says here on our leaderboard for GT2, but it says 0.3 of a second. Collard is behind Andrew Cacaldi, and now it's 0.1 of a second this time around, so that battle continues. This is 8th place now for the number 2 Maserati.
And they've made their second stop, of course, as have the two GMAT sponsored Phoenix Racing Corvettes, 6 and 5 ahead of them, but everyone else up at the sharp end, we haven't yet seen that. We've got the number 2 on screen, Zandy Negrao it was, who was out in the middle stint. Let's have a word with him now with Haley.
Wasn't such a great start for you, Alexandro, for the team either, but you're certainly doing well now.
Yeah, we did a different strategy because we are penalized starting from 12, so we decided to do an early pit stop and try to run as more quick as possible alone. So I think I did a good job. We did a long first stint, and let's see. And now we improve a little bit. We are in the P8. Let's see if we can improve a little bit more with the pit stop from the others.
Thank you, Alexander.
And those pit stops have begun. Ryan Sharp has brought the 33 car in from the lead after 57 laps. And out goes Carl Wendlinger, I feel sure, although it said Ryan Sharp at the bottom. I'm sure that is the tall Austrian in the seat. And here is the GT2 leader. Jimmy Bruni will be getting back in as Tony Villander walks away. And it's going to be interesting because Manuel Collard's still out there.
There he goes, Jimmy Bruni back into the fray. In the lead as in comes, and quite closely in behind, comes Xavier Marson to hand back over to Christophe Bouchou out of what was 4th place as they crossed the timing beam last time round. Of course, all these places will shuffle again as everybody makes their second pit stops. Ryan Sharp's done his, of course. We know that now all 3 of the top running Corvettes, that's the SRT black and white one and the 2 yellow Phoenix Racing cars, have all done their second stop. Miguel Ramos has, so we've still got Bertolini and Lickner Hoyer to make their stops. The battle still raging down in GT2 between Andrew Cacaldi and Manuel Collard. Cacaldi just still holding the advantage. That headlight has gone out on Collard's car, as predicted by 1G Tyler of his parish, and Tony Vilander still holds up the front of the course, although they've had their second pit stop and everything will shuffle when the timing beams are broken again. by this battle.
We did say earlier on that Emmanuel Collard has a certain cavalier attitude towards curbing, and then during the commercial break he actually went and proved that to the power of about 50 by throwing that Porsche off the curbs. It was 3 feet in the air at some places. The result has been some spectacular driving control from Emmanuel Collard that's amused us enormously, but hasn't really got him any closer to Andrew Cicaldi. He's still there, and he's now, according to the timing stream, 0.2 of a second behind last time past. As in comes Lucas Lichtenhoyer. He'll give that car back to Alex Muller, and we'll expect to see it again pick up speed.
Collard has dived into the pits that black round on the last shot inboard. I thought, well, I can see Biaggi out of Biaggi's car. I can see Cicaldi. I couldn't see Collard. The reason was he's gone into the pits and he'll back to Richard Westbrook. Away goes the Lucas Lichtenhoyer car, now back in the hands of Alex Muller. So let's see what they can do to restore the position that Jet Alliance held originally as first and second. Andrea Bertolini heads the race as we speak.
But he hasn't made his second pit stop. Michael Bartels is waiting in pit lane, and there is the 61 car to prove the point. Richard Westbrook going back out, and Emmanuel Collard, what a sterling job he's done. I'd love to find out what he thinks about the curbs around the Andrea circuit.
Yeah, that would be one to go and grab, wouldn't it? Anthony Kumpen still fighting on resolutely, and the number 4 Celine, the PK Motorsport team, having elected to run a Celine this year, are finding it's actually harder work than they thought. Oh, here comes Biaggi having a look at the back of Andrew Cicaldi, and can he make that happen? No, Cicaldi's going to keep him honest.
There's something flapping on the front end of the CR Scuderia Ferrari, and I think it looked just like a little bit of headlamp rubber seal. And remember, that car's been in the wars this weekend, so it wouldn't be extraordinary if bits of it started to drop off towards the end of the race, and we've got half an hour left on the clock.
Yeah, they were one of the several cars up and down pit lane who had trouble with broken front splitters during yesterday's qualifying session as a result of clobbering that turn 1 curbing a bit too hard.
And broken radiator as well, and in comes the 51 car. So Biaggi has decided that rather than keep on challenging, he'll just make the pit stop, and that means that Andrew Cicaldi assumes the lead of GT2 but owes us a pit stop.
Yes, he does, as does Andrea Bertolini at the head of GT1. That's how it works. The Wendlinger, Hazelmans, Muller trio are next up on the screens. We're just waiting for everything to unravel after the second and final session of pit stops.
You can see above pit lane the black clouds that were a feature of our journey to Oschersleben at the end of last week, and which drenched this circuit on Thursday evening and on Friday morning, are gradually returning, but we believe that the rain will not interfere with the progress of this race, but you never can tell.
We've got some bits and pieces of cars strewn across the track out at turn 11, we're told, by, and there they are.
Ferrari,
yes, that's red, isn't it? I wonder if that's off a Ferrari or maybe even off one of the Moslers. It's that sort of red. We may have to go and retrieve that carbon fibre shards out on the track. On lots of good news.
It's definitely a lot of Ferrari, but I don't know which one it is. Looking down the order, and the pace car, look, is ready, but its lights are still off. Now that really would put the pace car among the pigeons, so to speak, wouldn't it?
I wonder if we can, maybe pointing an accusatory finger at the 57 Kessel Racing Ferrari, whose last lap time was a 2:28. That would kind of involve a spin of some sort as we see action back out on the track. We're looking at the BK Motorsport Celine, and the car ahead of it is the Labre Competition version.
Yes, and there was a glimpse of our one Mosler there with all its bits and pieces in place, I think.
Yes, the 103 car sadly having rolled to a halt a long time ago, 47 laps adrift, and we've only actually run 50, so...
How much would Andrea Bertolini and Michael Bartels like a safety car now? They'll be watching that, and it's gone yellow in 1, 2 and 3. Safety cars out. Watch Andrea Bertolini come into the pits now and get a free pit stop. It's the only car in the top 10 that owes us a pit stop, and it's going to happen now. There's dust drifting across the infield there, and I don't know if that's an additional problem or it's still the debris. And I don't know if there's a car tucked behind the barrier there, but with the safety car on track, Andrea Bertolini and Michael Bartels are about to get a get-out-of-jail-free card. He wants to get in the pit lane, doesn't he, Graham?
He's desperate to get in the pit lane, and he's encouraging the cars ahead of him to keep going, keep going, keep going. But they have seen that the yellow flashing lights all around the circuit are on, and they're going to catch up to the back of the car. It's the two Miguel Ramos-driven Maserati that's been picked up by the safety car. We haven't seen European safety car drivers covering themselves with glory yet. Let's hope this one works out well, because this could be the key to the race for Maserati, Andrea Bertolini, and for Michael Bartels.
You know that Michael Bartels is strutting up and down in the pit lane in that anxious way that he has of hiding his nervousness by just walking it off, because this is a critical moment in the race for him and the team, and we'll catch up with it as pit lane begins to fill. We'll catch up with it here in a couple of minutes' time.
Race for AF Courses today in GT2.
Yes, in the first stint we have been first and second. Montanari second, Bruni first. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened for some strategy after my pit stop. I went out in 5th place, but then I had a very good pace and I catch the second overall. So we are all very close together. The only problem is now comes out the safety car, so can change some strategy for a few drivers.
Thank you, Thomas.
Ciao a tutti.
25 minutes remaining on the countdown timer at this 4th round of the FIA GT Championship in an Oschersleben, covered, we have to say now, in dark clouds. The number 4 car, like several others, used the safety car to make a free pit stop, but left pit lane with the red light showing and may well have to make a stop-go visit after the current safety car period comes to an end, whenever that is. It also going in was everybody else who hadn't stopped, and that included the man who was at the front of the field at the time, Andrea Bertolini. He's handed over to Michael Bartels. They got a free pit stop. Now, they're the only people in GT1 who hadn't stopped, and everyone else did it under race conditions. They were the only people at the front of the field to do it under safety car conditions, and we will find out when the yellows turn green exactly how much benefit they have got from that. And that's such a shame, isn't it, Graham?
Yeah, that's a sad sight to see the 550 Maranello Ferrari being pushed back in. I wonder if that is a legacy of brakes just not being able to cope with the tortuous twists and turns here at Oschersleben. We heard Jose Maria Lopez telling us that he was suffering with a long brake pedal at the end of his stint, and Martin Basso will have been fighting that throughout his time at the wheel, but sadly it seems to no effect.
Yeah, we did see a couple of lockups from Martin Basso, and they could well have been the consequence of hitting the brake pedal, finding nothing, and then just pumping away like crazy and getting it all of a sudden.
It is exactly that, Richard. Yeah, this is the melange that we've got behind the pace car now. We've got a real mix of positions, because they don't do the same as they do in the States and do a wave by under the pace car until the leader is picked up and the natural race order restores itself. That isn't the way it's done over here in Europe. The result is that it's Richard Westbrook's Porsche in 4th place in GT2, which is heading up the line of cars behind the safety car. Lights still on, so another lap will have to be completed.
And this was initially to collect debris, which we saw on track. We think it was bits of Ferrari, but we're still not sure which Ferrari it was bits of. But then there was a cloud of dust, and we got a glimpse of something behind the barriers, but we don't seem to have lost anyone. So it has just been, I think, to give the corner workers a chance to go out there and get bits of car. Perhaps it was bits of this car. And we've just been told that there is rain in pit lane. Even as we speak, it is starting to rain. What else is left?
Be interesting to see if anybody is cautious enough to want to bring the cars in with only 22 minutes remaining and run onto maybe an intermediate tyre. We are behind the safety car. They've got time to look at this decision. Umbrellas going up over in the stands opposite the pits. That's usually a good indication that it's more than just the odd spot.
And I'll tell you something else. Look above you. Look at those clouds. We looked at them earlier on screen. These are thick, heavy clouds, and what they did here at Oschersleben just before the weekend was to unload torrential rain. It doesn't rain a little bit here in the middle of Germany. It rains a lot. So with 21 minutes on the clock and the safety car due in at the end of this lap, we've got decision time in pit lane for the team managers. There's a lot of water up there, isn't there?
Yes, there is. It's going to be a tricky one to call this. There are some very experienced hands out on the pit walls, and they will be scratching their heads, you have no doubt at all, just at the moment, wondering what best to do. I'm guessing most of the drivers would elect to stay the way they are.
Yes, I mean, you don't want to make a visit to the pits unless you've absolutely got to. And at the moment, you haven't absolutely got to.
The good news for the race as a race is that the top 4 cars in the GT1 category are relatively close to each other in the crocodile of cars behind the safety car, which we understand may well be coming in at the end of this lap. So there is your race leader at the moment, Carl Wendlinger. In 2nd place, it's Mike Hazelman's in the Corvette, then the 2nd Aston Martin Jet Alliance car, who lines up in 3rd with the 2nd of the Phoenix Racing Corvettes in 4th.
And those are their positions on the leaderboard, but as you can see, they were in the process of going through slower cars in GT2. So Carl Wendlinger's got a couple of GT2 cars between him and Mike Hazelman at the moment, so he's got a bit of a cushion. And then there's a little bit of a gap back to Alex Muller in the 2nd of the Jet Alliance Aston Martins. That's Ryan Sharp at the far end there of the doll's house. Safety car lights are off, and it will go in to pit lane. It's about to pull off. It'll go off to its left, and normally when we're looking at it, we'll see it go off to our right. And as soon as it does, the man in front, and there he is, will be in charge of this race, and it'll be his responsibility to bring them round onto the start-finish straight in an orderly fashion. So Richard Westbrook is the man at the front of the field, but it is Carl Wendlinger in the middle there. You just got a glimpse of the blue top of the Aston Martin. There it is on the extreme left of your picture. He's the race leader, and he is anxious to clear this and get out of the way and try and make an escape from Mike Hazeman, who was 1.2 seconds behind him going over the start-finish line as the track goes green all the way round. Here's the man who may or may not have benefited from a free pit stop.
Well, he's ended up ahead of his teammate Miguel Ramos, who's down in 7th place. That means Bertolini's in 6th. He's now got to try and charge his way past a pair of Aston Martins and 3 Corvettes in the remaining 19 minutes of this race.
Bendinger, Hazeman, Muller, Fassler, Bouchou, Bertolini, that's our order 1 to 6. It's Bruni, Montanari and Bell 1 to 3 in GT2.
And that's Mike Hazeman's and Alex Muller behind in the Jet Alliance Aston Martin. 2 GT2 cars separating them currently. Mike Hazeman's is the windscreen through who we're looking at the moment, and he's got his eyes full of a GT2 Pirelli sponsored number 77, Paolo Roberti. He'll want to be through and past him and in pursuit of the car that he really needs to be paying attention to, which is Carl Benninger's Aston, still heading the field after 65 laps.
There it is, nice and easy going into the S's. The speed of the GT1 carrying the Corvette past the little Ferrari, and that's such a shame for Scuderia. Of course, that's Jamie Davis, and that's beached for good, isn't it? That looks stuck.
I wonder if that is going to... oh dear, now, was he pushed or did he fall, I wonder? Whichever it is, I hope he's managing to get the engine started again and rejoin, because you don't want to be parked there.
Well, it looked like a touch with the Corvette, and it might well have been this one, as Mike Hazeman makes short work of getting through the GT2 field.
Yeah, he's coming up against the back of one of the Salines. That's a PK Motorsport car. Bert Longin at the wheel. This is the one that was reported to have gone out of pit lane. This is the battle for second place we're looking at.
36 is the Aston Martin that Marcel Fassler would need to pass in the number 5 Corvette.
And that change has been made. Alex Muller has made his way in that confusion, has made his way through the Corvette, dropping down to 3rd. So Mike Hazeman's having now to try and play catch up again to get past the Aston Martins, who head the race 1 and 2.
We got a quick glimpse of the Corvette brushing its way past, so we must guess now that that was Mike Hazeman lost his time in the little contretemps there, and that allowed him to, or rather it allowed Alex Muller to get past. So it's 1 and 2 for Jet Alliance with 17 minutes on the clock.
And at the back of this screen we've got 3, as we concentrate on the number 6 Corvette, we've got the 3 GT2 cars locked in battle, and behind them we could see Marcel Fassler closely followed by Christophe Bouchou, with an approaching Andrea Bertolini as well.
And that was the number 4 of it's Bert Longin at the wheel of the Saleen, going in to pay his stop-go penalty. Hazeman with everything to do. Closed right up under braking, didn't he?
Looks very confident on braking there for turn 1. It is a good passing place, but he wasn't anywhere near close enough, as through the screen goes the number 2 Maserati. The one we're looking at now and making all the news is the 15 car back in the hands of Ben Orcott, and that scrabble of GT2 cars behind, all trying to sort themselves out places in the last quarter of an hour of this race. It is tight at the top of GT2.
So there you are. We have a little bit of excitement for, I think that was Fabrizio Del Monte, wasn't it?
Yep, Del Monte involved in the middle of that, along with Davide Rigon and Matthias Russo as well. And, on board with Christian Montanari.
He didn't want to play, did he?
No, the 1-2 situation at AF Corsa restored, with Jimmy Bruni heading up the field just 3 seconds ahead of Christian Montanari after that safety car period. Rob Bell back in the 56 car, having taken over from Andrew Concordi, is a scant 2.25 of a second behind Christian Montanari and wanting that place back again.
Bendinger, Muller, Hazeman 1, 2 and 3. Bruni, Montanari, Bell 1, 2 and 3 in GT2. 15 minutes. The rain has gone away, the umbrellas have gone away, and I think those few drops might be all that's going to happen here, at least during this race anyway.
Both of the Astons turning in good laps last time round in 126s. 128 for Mike Hazeman's means he's dropped almost 2 seconds behind Alex Muller now, who in turn is 4 seconds behind Carl Bendinger. Doesn't look to me, Richard, as though Michael Bartels is going to get his way.
No, it certainly doesn't. It still says Bertolini on our screen, of course, on the number 1 car, but I think that's just they haven't changed transponders. And it is, of course, a 1 and 2. Third place for Rob Bell. I think that's been a genuine performance indicator for that 56 car. That's looking very good. Richard Westbrook, good as he is in a Porsche, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite got the flamboyant and attacking style of Emmanuel Collard, and it's really the only thing that's brought that Porsche up against the Ferraris around this circuit, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We're looking at Thomas Biaggi looking to put a lap onto the Ferrari ahead of him, which is that of Fabrizio Del Monte, the Kessel Racing car.
He didn't want that before, though. Fabrizio Del Monte didn't want to get out of the way when they were all tussling in turn 1. And interesting, the Maserati, having got past it, hasn't got away, has it?
No, it really hasn't.
Who's that just recovering? There was a car on the grass there, and it was one of the BMS cars, just in a cloud of dust, and then it rejoined, but I can't see which one.
Here again is Thomas Biaggi. There's a car between himself and Rob Bell. Now Rob Bell's is the blue rear-decked car that we see tucked in behind the red and white Corvette Ferrari. They're just trying to make that pass.
So it was 77 that it was
Paolo Roberti,
indeed, who went off.
Still Rob Bell tucked up behind this car that's not actually part of the squabble, so he'll be wanting to dispose of that one if he possibly can.
Still that little flappy thing on the front headlight there of the 56 car, nothing to worry about, and it isn't going to slow it down or affect its performance.
GT2 has been a terrific battle throughout this 2-hour race, but still no joy, sadly, for Porsche. They've done as well as they can. Richard Westbrook holding 4th place behind the battling trio of Ferraris, but they needed to be at the head of the field this race and for the rest of the season in order to mount a genuine challenge to Ferrari's dominance. More dust being kicked up and curb hopping aplenty as we watch Paolo Roberti, undaunted by his spin, still going at it hammer and tongs.
Well, remember that next time out we go to the Spa 24 Hours, which gives us double points, and it is traditionally a Porsche stronghold, and they really wanted this race to give them a good springboard into that. And to be quite honest, I think 4th place around here under the circumstances is not a bad result, but not the one they wanted.
No, it's not a bad result at all. No real surprise to find that the car riding shotgun, if you like, between the back of Thomas Biaggi and the pursuing car of Robert Bell is the number 95 car of Matthias Russo, which isn't strictly speaking an AF Corsa entry, but they do happen to be garaged next to them all the time.
Yes, and a little bit of teamwork there, of course, is completely in order, if that's what they wish to do, as long as they don't do anything naughty.
No, it's not suggesting there's anything untoward about it. It's just very convenient for the 51 crew that they've managed to get that car between themselves and Rob Bell. Rob will be spitting feathers inside his cockpit, wanting to get past.
Because that 95 is a lap out of place. That's not a positional position for 95. He's a lap down, just happens to be there, and in theory should be blue flagged and shouldn't get out of the way.
There's just so much activity going on, so it'll be interesting to see whether they can actually denote which cars are battling and which aren't. The number 3 car, unfortunately, Christophe Bouchou, has incurred a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That won't help their cause. They've done well to get the car back up into the top half dozen, but now they're going to have to make an extra stop, and that'll see them tumbling back down the order again. Little
reminder, it's Carl Wendlinger at the front of the GT1 field. Alex Muller is in 2nd place, so it is 1 and 2 for Jet Alliance, which is a complete change from being 1 and 2 out within a few minutes of each other last time in Adria. Marcel Fassler is in 3rd place, Michael Bartels is 4th, Christophe Bouchou here is in 5th place. But, as you say, Graham, he's got to go into the pit.
And somewhere along the way, things have gone pear-shaped for Mike Hazemans. He's dropped down the order to 7th. He's had a spin somewhere out of our sight, and unfortunately that's dropped him down to 7th place. So Michael Bartels is now knocking on the door of a podium position at least. The car he's chasing has one just gone out of shot, the yellow Corvette. There it is of Marcel Fessler. The gap was a second as they crossed the line last time round. It looks to the naked eye to be rather less. than that as they pursue their way through that little flick-flack on the back end of the straight. Both cars kicking up the dust on the exit of the corner there, and this is the battle for third position, the final podium spot.
9 minutes and 30 seconds before the checkered flag will be brought from its socket. There's a posh word for flag sockets and I've forgotten what it is, but anyway, it's 9 minutes and 20 seconds now before it'll be readied, and it will be shown to the race leader the next time he comes past the start finish line. And Michael Bartels, I think, can sense that that Corvette has again used its tyres. One of the things the Maseratis are good at is tyre wear. They are quite long on fuel, but they are very kind to their tyres, and I think the Corvette round here, and we heard that Fabrizio Gollin say it's the fronts that suffer worse here, and I think the Corvette has come to the end of its tyres, and it's just a question of when and where, really, now, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and we saw as the Maserati has another look up the inside, but not able to make the pass stick there on their last driver change from Bertolini back to Michael Bartels. They didn't take fresh tyres for that car. Into the fray comes the number 2 car as well, and the one ahead of it is the Bouchou Corvette, which we know has got to make a pit stop. So we're going to see the 2 Vitaphone cars running line astern. Currently that will be for 4th and 5th place, but it will all change if Michael Bartels managed to make his way past Marcel Fessler, which he is certainly intent on doing, Richard.
He's shaping up for it, isn't he? Look, and he is trying just to stay as close as he can. That's all he wants to do at the moment, is keep the pressure on, show Fessler the front end of the Maserati everywhere he can, keep him unsettled. But what he really wants is a good run out of the final corner and a good launch onto the front straight so that he can have a big stab up the inside as they go for brakes into turn 1. Past the pit lane entrance, he really wants to be close round here and keep it up underneath the rear wing. He is in position. Fessler runs wide again. He's struggling to keep that car online. He's allowed one move to block, and that's it. But there it is. Michael Bartels had a look and he's close enough.
That just hasn't quite got the speed down the start-finish straight. Looks as though the Corvette has still got the legs on the Vitaphone Maserati on the straight. Oh, just tucking up under the inside there. Not again able to quite make it stick. The power in that Corvette engine, hustling it out of the corner a little bit quicker than the Maserati could go. Always harder to be the car following, because you've got to watch out for the car ahead to accelerate before you can, otherwise you plough into the back of it. Equally intense behind is a battle between Miguel Ramos and Christophe Bouchou, though that will be resolved by Bouchou having to go into the pit lane if he answers the call for the drive-through.
You get 3 laps before you're penalised further for not responding to a drive-through penalty, and this must be the 3rd lap, I think, because that's been on the screen for quite a while. So Bouchou has either got to do that, or he might elect to take a penalty into the next. Oh, he spun it, Michael Bartels.
Now that was odd, because there was an issue of something looked like smoke. I don't know whether it was just running wide and kicking up dust from the inside of the corner, but he looped that on his own. It looked as though he just tried a little bit too hard through that corner and couldn't hold the car together. So that'll give a lot of breathing space now to Marcel Fessler up in 3rd place, and should resolve the battle once and for all.
Well, I think with 6 minutes left on the clock, let's have a look and see what happened. I think he might have just got a bit too close, and no, it's not even that. He's on dirt, isn't he? And he's on the gas at the same time, and just trying to stay with the Corvette.
Didn't look as though he had wheels fully off the circuit, which is what mystified me slightly. May just have been riding the curb on the inside, and far enough up that other dirt already kicked up as Bouchou has made his stop. Other dirt kicked up by other cars was that bit closer to the edge of the line, and that's what unfortunately caught out Michael Bartels, who will not be a happy bunny at the end of this race. He was looking good for a podium finish. He would have wanted the win. Now he's going to get neither, because Carl Wendlinger and Alex Muller in the pair of Jekyll Alliance Aston Martins, who head the field handsomely, some 15 seconds back from them is Marcel Fessler in the number 5 Phoenix Racing Corvette.
Well, I'm not sure that all is well with this number 1 Maserati, because it just went a little bit loose at the back end there a couple of times, and it just seems to have a bit of vibration in the back end as well.
Now, is this because they didn't change the tyres last pit stop?
Yes, well, of course, they made the brave choice, didn't they? So now it seems they're paying a certain price for it. Five minutes to go, exactly. On the countdown timer, is Michael Bartels in lots of tyre trouble? We're not completely certain, are we? We think so, and we definitely know that he's dropped a place as a result of a spin. But the man we really wanted to talk to for all his curb hopping activities was Emmanuel Collard. Haley's run him to earth in pit lane. Let's find out what he thinks of the Adria curbs.
Emmanuel, Richard seems to be putting up a good fight to try and get you a podium position.
Yeah, it's a shame that we didn't get the wave by during the best count. We lost one lap, but anyway, finished fourth. It's a shame because we are not on the podium, but I mean, we started the race in 6th position, so we gained 2 places. Here it's not so easy to overtake, so we have to get this point, and we will see later for Spa.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Fit as the proverbial butcher's dog, because he's not even out of breath, and I would be.
Absolutely not. Not only has he been driving like a complete hero this afternoon, he's also probably qualified several minutes onto his PPL requirements. No flying Porsche, really making a mark around the circuit. Stunning drive as ever from Manu Collard, but it was that pace, and as I mentioned on the way through, the fact that they don't do this wave-by procedure in Europe that has cost them that lap and denied them any chance of getting onto the podium, which will again be a Ferrari clean sweep, providing nothing happens to one of the top 3s, which is the 2 AF Corsa cars in number order 50 and 51, and Rob Bell still battling on in the 56 CR Scuderia car, number 56 in 3rd.
61, Richard Westbrook is behind him, 4th place, and as Emmanuel Collard said, a wave by would have changed that, but it's not what happens here. So, and it hasn't happened for anybody. So, it's a regret for Collard and Westbrook, but that's the way the rules are here. Wendlinger, after 76 laps, has got Alex Muller a 2.5 behind him. Marcel Fassler in 3rd place in the Corvette, and don't forget that's carrying some extra kilos of ballast. He's looking very good. Miguel Ramos is in front of his teammate. Michael Bartel's got away with that spin very lightly indeed. Mike Hazeman has also had problems, remember, he went off and is 5 seconds behind Bartel's in 6th place. Back out after his drive-through penalty, that was Christophe Bouchou in the number 3 Corvette, and he is in 7th place. Fabrizio Del Monte is the leading Ferrari there of these two.
Paolo Roberti, we saw having a spin earlier, trying to recover position. He's less than 3/4 of a second behind last time through the timing beam, and he'll be using, if he can, the last couple of minutes to try and drag his way past that Ferrari again as we go back to the head of the field. And this is exactly the story the Jet Alliance wanted to see coming into this round. They had a double failure last time out at Adria in our evening race, and here it looks like being a double top.
Doesn't that illustrate a depth in the team that they can recover from a double failure last time out? Both cars parked by the side of the track within minutes of each other, come back here, qualify on pole, and turn it into a formation finish. As you say, there's 1.5 minutes remaining, and they, I think, are going to get 2 more laps, aren't they? This one and one other.
They'll get this one and one more, and I just wonder if that one and one more is going to be enough to see Miguel Ramos start to make a serious challenge on the back of Marcel Fessler's Corvette for 3rd place, the final podium spot. There's only 2 seconds between them, and last lap round Ramos was a clear second quicker than Fessler in the Corvette ahead of him. It's going to be last lap as they cross the timing beams this time round.
Lucas Lichtenheuer in the prayer attitude there in the corner of the Jet Alliance garage, not actually able to look at the TV screen anymore because he's just got a minute to live through, and then the checkered flag will be unfurled from its becket and waved at Carl Wendlinger. He is starting his final lap now. Look at it there, 45 seconds on the clock as he goes over the line and begins the final lap, and they're closing right up for the photographers and the TV cameras all around the course, because this is absolutely what you want for your brochure for next year, isn't it?
Absolutely, and Jet Alliance put out a very nice newsletter as each round, and you can bet they are just dying to get that 1-2 shot across the line for the front page of it next time we meet again at Spa.
And of course, when they go to Spa, they will only take one car, as they always do. Halves the chances, but it keeps your driver line up together. And it didn't pay off for them last year, but they're going to go there on a high this year.
Absolutely, but this race is not yet run, Richard, because behind them, all right, 25 seconds behind, Marcel Fessler now has only 0.7 of a second between himself and a charging Miguel Ramos in the number 2 Maserati, the one that, remember, took that very early pit stop to change its strategy after being penalised 5 spots on the grid. They started in 12th, they've made their way up to 4th, and if Miguel Ramos has anything to say about it, that'll be a 3rd and a podium finish, which would be a terrific result for them.
That would be a turnaround. We said that Vitaphone are capable of performing that little conjuring trick. It hasn't worked for Michael Bartels. We saw the car loop. We think it's because he stayed out on the same tyres, and I think I'm going to put my money on Miguel Ramos finishing in 4th place.
Okay, I think you may just be right, but as they run past pit lane for the final time, it's going to be the Jet Alliance Aston Martins that clear this one out of the way and take the top 2 slots on the podium. Congratulations then to Carl Wendlinger and Ryan Sharp, to Alex Muller and Lucas Lingner-Hoyer, who comes finally out of his position. Big lock-up on the line to mark the fact from Alex Muller, and we can, I hope, have a quick squint back down the line and have a look at Marcel Fessler and Miguel Ramos. Huge congratulations going on in the garage, as they should. They've really toughed this one out. It's been a fantastic battle from start to finish. In GT2, it's as close as ever, with just about a second covering the top 3 in class. Ramos has just failed it by 1/10 of a second across the line. Marcel Fessler holding on for 3rd place in GT1. This is the battle for GT2 overall. The car in front is the lapped Porsche Richard Westbrook, and then 1, 2, 3 in order behind you are the cars that are in 1st, 2nd and 3rd place for the podium in GT2, and they've all got to get across the line in one piece, please, boys.
Jimmy Rooney leads, Christian Montanari, Rob Bell's behind all these ways. That's the way they should be as they come round, and it still is, yes. 1st, 2nd and 3rd, they're going to finish in the same order. There's the GT2 checkered flag. Marcel Fessler had Miguel Ramos 3/4 of the way past him going over the finish line, but he pulled off his 3rd place. All my predictions have come true this weekend.
Well done you. Rob Bell just being held up at the last by a battling pair of Matthias Russo and David Rigon in the 95 and 78 cars respectively, getting between him and Christian Montanari, the 2AF Corsa cars, able to worm their way past, but unfortunately Rob Bell not, so has to settle for a hugely distant 8/10 of a second 3rd place behind Christian Montanari. Here's your winner.
Well, what a turnaround for Jet Alliance. What a launch pad for the 24 hours at Spa. And what a team performance from Wendlinger and Alex Muller.
And a second consecutive 3rd place for Marcel Fessler, and Chantilly Delatraz scored the same place and the same points in Adria in a very different race during the evening and into night. But here in the relatively bright skies, although we did have that little threat of rain towards the end of Oschersleben on a much warmer day, it's been a fabulous story for Aston Martin.
It's been quite a good afternoon for Ferrari as well. I think it's been a very encouraging afternoon for Porsche, although the record book will show they finished in 4th place in GT2. That was a contender, that car, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely so, and driven with verve, if not more, by Emmanuel Collard. Richard Westbrook carried the lion's share of the driving this time. They tend to take it in turns as to who starts the race. This time it happened to be Richard Westbrook's turn, and the hugely experienced Porsche Cup driver making good, but not able to overcome the intervention of the safety car, which ultimately cost them a chance at a tilt at the podium. And this should be fun. There's going to be a celebration and a half at Jet Alliance this evening.
Carl Wendlinger doesn't really do emotion, though, does he? I mean, he's a cheerful enough bloke, but he doesn't really get down and party, does he?
Doesn't get overexcited, does he?
No, unlike Lucas Lingner-Hoyer, who we saw kissing the floor in the pit box as the cars went over the line 1 and 2. That really is the way to set a seal on a double disaster, to come back with a double triumph like that.
Absolutely. Marcel Fessler having to settle for 3rd place. At one point, the 2 Phoenix cars were looking as though they might annex the top of the podium altogether, but it wasn't to be. Mike Hazelman's having a spin late on, dropping him down to 6th place in the standings, still ahead of the SRT Corvette, however, because Christophe Bouchou incurred that drive-through penalty and dropped them down to 7th. Michael Bartels and Miguel Ramos not making it on the podium this weekend. There is Alex Muller, and Alex finishing up in 2nd place.
Hi.
He's with Hayley.
Congratulations, Alex.
Thank you.
How was the race for you?
It was good. First corner, I was catching Carl. I did a good pace. The car was very, very good. Thanks to Jet Alliance Racing, they gave us 2 cars they were just flying, you know. That's why we are Jet Alliance. No, it was very good, brilliant, good car. My teammate did an awesome job. He did a very, very good job. That makes the second place just, you know.
Thank you, Alex.
Yes, that's why we're flying.
Yeah, good point, well made. And Alex Muller stealing the line that I had mentally rehearsed to use before he beat me to it. But quite right to point out that Lucas Lichtenhoyer really held up his part of the drive as well, and has done extraordinarily well. Carl Wendlinger wearily making his way to his feet to have a word with us as well. We'll
sure
try and...
Haley would have sat down, wouldn't she? She would definitely have gone down to his level.
Congratulations, Carl. How was the experience for you?
Very nice, very good race. The car was strong right from the beginning. After the start I was only third, but still kept going, and very good pit stop at the right time, so we could catch the lead and defend it till the end.
What a great result for Jet Alliance.
One and two, great, cannot be better.
Thank you, Carl.
As we said, not a great deal of emotion there, but again, I mean, he's one of the fit ones, isn't he, Carl Wendlinger? But you can see he's been working hard. He is well out of breath, isn't he?
Absolutely. As we watch some of the highlights through, the 33 car was the one that headed out from pole position, didn't make it through turn one into the lead, however, and had to settle for third place, battling back all the way through. This is a lovely little sequence of corners that they have to run through here, and the Aston handle the corners this weekend better than anyone.
And of course running without ballast in 33 and 36, and so it has been able to make the most of its handling capability to pull triumph from what was an awful weekend last time out. And there is the confirmation, Delatraz in third place, claiming that last podium finish. Fourth place was a good result for the number 2 car after the penalty in the early pit stop. And Michael Bartels, I think, will be very disappointed with 5th place. He'd worked a lot harder than that, hadn't he? And it was just snatched away from them. They made a brave call on tyres, and I just think it didn't pay off.
No, and more disappointment for Mike Hazelmans as well, following having a little spin of his own towards the end, and for Christophe Bouchou for that late penalty. In GT2, it's business as usual. They, of course, are heading up first and second. Great result finally for CR Scuderia. This team have worked their socks off this season, and with scant results, but it's a good result now for Rob Bell and Andrew Kakordi. And as we fade back out of the results,